This is J. Randall Wilkerson, author of the Heart Failure Recovery Plan, Successful Heart Regeneration Using Metabolic Enzymes. This will be part 30 of a 58-part video series on the entire book. If you have not already, please review the introduction from our channel. That will give you the background. Part 30 is sugar under Chapter 8, Diet. Sugar is a hot button issue these days. So many books out there advise against any kind of sugar in your foods, and there's even one exceptional one called Sugar Shock: How Sweets and Simple Carbs Can Derail Your Life and How You Can Get Back on Track. This is by Connie Bennett with Dr. Stephen Sinatra. Sugar, with respect to heart failure, is blood sugar, not the sugar that you eat, but what you eat that affects the sugar in your blood, your glucose. Now, one group called the Environmental Working Group has a website of www.ewg.org. They made it their mission to identify unhealthy foods and have surveyed 80,000 food products in the American supermarkets. They found 58% have sugar added. Also, some have heavy metals, poisons, pesticides, killer additives. That's a side issue. With regard to heart failure, a clinical study recently released in January 2015 and reported in Science Daily commented on the European Heart Journal. Article examined 16,524 patients who arrived at hospital emergency rooms in Ontario, Canada with heart failure. Those with higher than normal blood sugar levels had a 26% to 50% greater risk of sudden death in 30 days, 4 or 5 weeks, than those with normal blood sugar. Most of those patients did not have existing diabetes, yet just a little bit higher than normal blood sugar levels could dramatically increase your mortality rate. So you should sit up and take notice. The recommendation at the end of the article was to conduct blood glucose tests on all heart failure patients upon admission. In 2014, the Journal of the American Medical Association, Internal Medicine, reported that participants in a 15-year study who consumed 25% or more of their calories as sugar were twice as likely to die of heart disease as those whose diet included less than 10% added sugar. So that's just 15% more. This is a 100% increase in death rate. Very noteworthy. Currently, there are no federal guidelines on sugar consumption. The American Heart Association recommends that women consume less than 100 calories, or 6 teaspoons, and men consume less than 150 calories, or 9 teaspoons. A single small 12-ounce can of regular soda, not the big bottles or the medium bottles, is equal to 150 calories. A study reported in the University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston found that too much sugar leads to stress on heart muscle tissues, causing very poor heart function, leading to heart failure. The culprit is a single molecule called G6P, or glucose 6-phosphate. A very large study of 75,521 women for 10 years calculated heart disease risk based on glycemic index of foods consumed. Women with a body mass index over 23, which is fairly normal, not even fat in any means, not considered overweight. The higher the glycemic index of the food or sugar, the higher the rate of heart disease and heart failure. The highest measured index increased heart disease risk 2.77 times. Foods like wheat-based breads, cookies, and cupcakes have extremely high glycemic indexes. In fact, they impact your body worse than eating a bowl of pure sugar. So here we get down to the brass tacks. You can cut out sugar from your diet and still have high blood sugar. Foods can digest slowly or quickly. Those that digest the most quickly transfer the nutrients into your blood, creating a blood sugar spike. And this can be measured by glycemic index. It's a measure of how quickly blood sugar spikes on a given quantity of food and the insulin reaction in your body. There are quite a few books on the market for glycemic diets, and they'll have a long list of every food you can think of. It's glycemic index, and you can just put it into 3 categories: high and dangerous, medium and risky, and low and safe. What do I mean by that? Well, bad, that is very high and risky, is above a GI of 70. From 70 to 55 is moderately risky, and safe foods to eat have a GI or glycemic index below 55. Now, most of the foods listed on the Environmental Working Group website will list the glycemic index, as well as books that you can obtain to list these foods. In this book, we have a short chart that shows some relative foods, so you get an idea of how some foods that are not even necessary can be killer, like donuts. The glycemic index is 108. A bowl of pure white table sugar is 65 to 58. So that baked russet potato at 111 is nearly twice the impact on your blood sugar as a bowl of sugar. It goes without saying that high fructose corn syrup is really bad. It's much worse than white sugar. But the amazing thing are anything made with wheat. White wheat bread has a GI of 71 to 100. So a single slice of bread is much worse than eating pure sugar, and we don't recommend eating pure sugar. Wheat waffles have a GI of 76. Pizza, cheese with sauce, has a GI of 80. You get the idea. Anything made with wheat is very, very bad for someone with heart failure or anyone, because it increases your heart disease risk. So prevention calls for eliminating wheat and anything above 55 on the GI index scales. It may surprise you to know that some great foods are entirely safe. I mean, humans have lived for years, or we've had grandparents who lived to be over 100. Certain foods are no problem for the body. Carrots, black beans, kidney beans, cashews, peanuts, nuts, walnuts, very, very low glycemic index. And even honey, it's 38 to 50, so it's in the low scale. Whenever you hear a doctor railing against honey, that it's just like sugar and just as bad, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because honey is a mixture of sugars, fructoses and glucoses, that are linked. So when you eat honey, that linking of the sugars slows down its uptake, and therefore the liver can process it more slowly, and it doesn't hit you as fiercely as real sugar or glucose sugar, which is even much worse. So you can see from this paragraph and this whole section that eliminating high GI foods is going to be one of the most important things in changing your diet. You need to list all the foods that are safe, and many of them are comfort foods. You can take spelt-based macaroni and make macaroni and cheese. You can do quite a few things that seem to be normal in American food life, like hamburgers. Meat has a very low GI. Broiled chicken, not fried chicken. All of these things can be completely safe and with no impact on your blood sugar. The next step to regulating your blood sugar is to keep in mind that all of the glycemic index references revolve around a fixed quantity of food that was tested. So, for example, they had a fixed number of grams of a slice of bread, and with wheat that could be as high as 100, whereas spelt bread is only 45. Completely safe. In fact, it's nuttier and a little firmer, yet works just like bread for peanut butter sandwiches, anything that you want to make for lunch. And glycemic load is the next issue. Glycemic load is essentially how much of what you eat at a specific glycemic index. And that's what ultimately determines your blood sugar level. So, for example, Cold Stone Vanilla Bean ice cream has a glycemic load of 20. That's fairly low. Even though it has sugars in it, the fats in a high-fat ice cream slow down uptake, reducing the blood sugar spiking, so it's particularly safe. Keep in mind, you want to reduce your serving size because that's what glycemic load means. If you eat an entire half gallon of ice cream, it doesn't matter if the load is 20 because you're going to dramatically spike your blood sugar due to the quantity of what you ate. So make a small bowl, the smallest bowl you can have in the house, and enjoy those treats, but in small quantities. Another example is 70% dark chocolate. A 1-inch square weighs 13 grams. But because it's dark chocolate, it has limited sugars. It only has 3 grams of sugar. If you eat 1 square on top of a meal, lunch, dinner, whatever, that amount of sugar is diluted by so much food that it won't spike your blood at all. You won't even notice it if you were to take blood tests before and after. So keep in mind, quantity and type can be perfectly safe as long as you watch and mix it with a meal. Every morning I make spelt flour pancakes. There's no common wheat in it. The modern wheats are basically genetically modified. And yet, it never spikes my blood sugar because it takes so long to digest, and therefore I have a continual steady power or energy output all morning long. Normal pancakes, I would zoom up as the blood sugar spiked and then crash as the insulin hit me. You can get spelt spaghetti, noodles, muffins, cakes, breads. They're all low glycemic index. Oat flour breads, oat crackers, which are called Scottish oat cakes, these are all down in the 30s. Very, very safe to eat. So in summary, eat foods below 55 on the glycemic index scale. And when you do want a treat like vanilla ice cream, don't get the low fat, get the high fat, and then eat a small amount. Because the higher the fat, the slower the intake, and the lower the glycemic index and glycemic load. You don't want to eat anything, specifically sodas, anything with corn syrup added, because it's like eating a poison, especially if you're trying to prevent heart failure, and forget heart failure recovery if your diet is high in sugars and glycemic index foods. My name is J. Randall Wilkerson. I'm the author of the Heart Failure Recovery Plan. Successful heart regeneration using metabolic enzymes. This book is available from Amazon in Kindle and print editions, from Apple iBooks in the iTunes Store. It's also in a print edition on eBay, and it's available from the publisher Wilkerson & Hughes, P.O. Box 777, Altoona, Florida, 32702. Just enclose a check for $24 to cover the book, plus shipping and handling. Thank you for listening.